welcome back to Unfiltered with Anna and Andy.
Hello.
So last week we talked about our fitness journeys and our backgrounds and what got us started, the things and people that influenced us, to who we are today. And we felt that led us into the topic for today's discussion of how we are products of our environment.
So did you know that the single greatest influence on our thought and behavior patterns and responses are our parent figures?
I completely agree with you. And it's funny you say that, right? Because as I was preparing for this, session, I started realizing how many, I guess you could say, mommy and daddy issues I really have.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
And I think our parents unconsciously did not know.
I think that they did the best that they could.
What they were teaching us.
Yeah.
And how it molded us into adults. And
absolutely.
I'm panicking at this moment because I have 3 boys.
And you're not sure how they're feeling.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I should have. So here's what we've got a couple points that we're going to touch on. 1, our adult relationship dynamics. 2, how to have or not have clear boundaries. 3, core beliefs about who we are. 4, how to regulate or respond to our emotions.
That's a big one.
That's a good one. And then 5, how to treat ourselves. That's also a big one.
And that is a big topic.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with our adult relationship dynamic. We learn how relationships function by the first relationships we witness, which makes sense. It's our parents, right? How they interact becomes the foundation of how we function in adult relationships. So my parents, they were non-confrontational people. Very quiet, very private. I did not hear them argue. My mom was the homemaker, took care of my father, all of his needs, took care of the home. That's what I grew up in.
Yeah.
We went on family vacations. They limited our TV time, our music. I grew up in a very Lutheran,
very structured home.
Very structured, very Lutheran, religious-based home. Fast forward to my adulthood.
Yeah.
And I've been told that I apologize a lot. Yes, I do. And when in conversation, I agree.
Very agreeable.
Very agreeable. I do that to avoid conflict. I'm very self-aware at this point.
And passive.
And so I'm a people pleaser. I suppress my emotions.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Andy. And I'm a people pleaser and I suppress my emotions.
Right.
But then that leads to me being passive aggressive, which is not a good thing.
And it's funny reflecting on how my parents were. My parents were kind of the opposite. They argued in front of us. They were very dysfunctional. I grew up thinking an argument was a full-on fight. And that's not necessarily how I reflected into my current relationships, because I don't. And it's funny because if you know me, I'm not passive. Like, I'm not a passive aggressive person. I do tend to people please. I do tend to avoid confrontation because I am so worried of the negative outcome. And it's crazy because inside in my head, I am not passive. And I have been reflecting on how I've let my relationships, let's just say, for example, like boyfriends, how I've let them take the lead and them, in some ways make the decisions and leave the ball in their court just so that, because I thought that was the best thing to do to make this a happy, situation. And I think I do that with some of my friends too. Instead of being decisive and, thinking about yourself and what your needs are and what you want, I sit back and I will listen. Andy knows. I will listen to you for years.
She does. She's good. She's a good listener.
But the problem is I don't expect or allow people to listen to me. I will brush right over it because I think people don't care.
Yes.
And that's not the truth. You need to be heard.
I agree with that because my parents were, I would ask all kinds of questions. I got in trouble a lot. I was grounded my entire adolescent life.
Yeah.
I was. And I guess that's where you could say I saw the, what's the word I'm looking for? Frustration in my father.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Because I was I was not demanding. I would
bossy teenager?
Not bossy even. I was defiant.
That's there you go. Rebellious.
I was very defiant and rebellious. So my father was very frustrated and I was grounded a lot. Mm-hmm. And I would always ask, well, why? And I would say to him, why can't I do this? I wasn't understanding. And he would say, because I said so. And I feel like during those impressionable years, that was the answer I was given. And I was never given because there's consequences. If you were to go to this party, you might not make right decisions. There was never a conversation. It was always right. So it was always because I said so. And I feel like in my adult relationships, I lost my voice and I lost my value.
Yep.
And like you, I don't think people want to hear what I have to say. So it's kind of interesting that I'm doing this podcast. I'm growing. I am growing, people.
Well, I think that all leads into how we weren't taught to set healthy boundaries with other people and with ourselves.
Yes, which is our second point. This is a great way to get, move into that point.
No, absolutely. And, boundaries is something that I have struggled with. I still do, but I am so much better today. An example of how I'm better, and then I'll do an example of how I was not doing well. I am technically single right now, dating around, talking to people, whatever. But like you, I'm very analytical. But I'm also trying to grow as a person. And a big thing that I experienced in past relationships, whether it be friendships or, romantic relationships, was setting boundaries. And, as of late, if there's something that I don't like or don't agree with, I'll communicate it. And if we can't come to a resolution, then, okay, thank you for your little blurb in my life, but I'm moving on. You are not for me. Whereas, maybe just more recently, I learned a huge lesson in life and I allowed myself to stay in a situation that was very toxic, very unhealthy. I was unhappy. And I knew this was not right. I still let people take advantage of me. I still let people walk all over me because in a way it was comfortable. But I still didn't have, I guess you could say, that confidence to say, no, this isn't right. This is not what I want. This is not what I deserve. And to walk away, to have the courage to walk away.
I just find it interesting how we stay in situations, toxic situations, longer than we should. And I can 99.9% guarantee that even our listeners could, if I said how many people have stayed in a situation way longer, and it messes with your mental game.
It does.
And your physical, right?
That's the empath in us. We look at a situation, and no matter how bad it is, we will find the good or how can we still continue to help? We can still make this better.
And why is that? I don't understand. Maybe for me, I always want to bring out the good in people. I always feel that grace is necessary. But at what point do you put yourself before somebody else? Because that's what I do.
Yeah.
I give somebody else grace more than I give my own self grace. Which,
yeah,
it's not right.
And it's hard to be more selfish because we're not used to it. We didn't grow up in an environment where you needed to be more selfish, I guess. Maybe you didn't, but I did.
No.
And sometimes I am very selfish, but that we harm ourselves more than we help ourselves in those situations.
Well, at least we're self-aware.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do is be self-aware and learn and move on. I still have a hard time expressing my feelings in the moment. And I learned something not too long ago that I have boundaries with pets and I don't have boundaries with humans. I have a hard time. So
why do you think that is?
I don't know. Because, you know why? Yes, I do know.
Okay.
Because pets can't talk back to you.
I was just about to say that. I was going to say, I know why.
I can have boundaries. And I realize that because, we've got Max. Max is our golden retriever. And I was like, he came in from outside and he's wet. And he jumped on the couch and I was like, dude, off the couch, which we know. I mean, he's getting muddy paws. That's fine. Or he's an affectionate, lover. He loves affection. This dog loves affection, and kind of gets in your personal space. And he's doing nothing wrong. All he wants is to be. And I have boundaries about that, but I can't.
What I'm hearing,
the same boundaries with people.
Well, what I'm hearing is, like you said previously, you avoid confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
A dog really can't confront you or tell you no,
but he doesn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. And I feel so horrible sometimes because my boundaries are not bad. Obviously, I love him unconditionally. But I just, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, what is going on? I'm like, I've got boundaries with pets. I can enforce them with pets. I can't enforce them with people.
Well, I can relate to that.
That's why I'm in therapy, people.
You know what's funny?
That's why I'm in therapy.
I have boundaries with pets, but in a way I have less boundaries with pets. Like, I will let them do whatever it is they want or need as long as they let me love them.
See, that's what so I'm backwards.
Yeah.
Not that my boundaries hurt them by any means, but you're absolutely right. They don't talk back and I don't like confrontation.
Well,
so.
And I have an example from a while ago. Being in the moment when something does not feel right, it's not serving you, or a person says or does something that you're not necessarily okay with, but you are able to talk yourself in that moment that it's okay, this is what you want, this is how you want it to go. And then later on, you're reflecting and you're beating yourself up because you didn't say something at that moment. And then, days down the road, we talked about this.
Yes.
Then it comes out days down the road.
Well, and I've found myself, and I've done this recently, I'm in a social situation and someone in the group will say something to me that, kiddingly, right? They're joking. They say something that is hurtful, but they're joking, and I don't say anything. And I remove myself from the situation, and to your point, I stew on it for days, where I should have said something like, that's not acceptable, and confront that person. But that's hard.
It's very hard to do that in the moment because, again, once you set a boundary and people can't accept it or can't stay accountable to it, you almost ruin the energy or the moment.
True.
And you could potentially ruin a relationship because some people can't handle being kept accountable.
And I believe I removed myself from friendships because I would rather remove myself from a friendship than be honest and truthful in the moment. I would rather remove myself from a situation and not say anything because it's that uncomfortable for me. Because I feel like I don't know how to do it.
and that's okay, as long as you're still trying to learn. And I'm kind of the same way. I've done that similar thing where it's just easier to not say anything, completely avoid it, pretend like it never happened, instead of communicating to the person. But how many times have you thought to yourself, well, I just wish they would have said something. It would have been okay if they just said something in the moment or a while ago, or if they had just told me how they were feeling, like we could have talked it out.
Yes.
If you feel that way, I feel like 9 times out of 10 other people feel the same way.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I just thought of that right now. That's a growing point. But I think that leads us into, when you grow as a person, you develop your core values or your core beliefs, how you want people to see and value your character. And for me, my mom raised me to be a respectful, kind, honest person. And I would say that I am that person. Do we fault? Absolutely. Have I made mistakes? Oh yeah. Have I hurt people? I still do. And I wish I didn't. But I grew up with morals, and I grew up learning to do the right thing and knowing right from wrong, and 2 wrongs don't make a right. And, having self-discipline and knowing that not everything's going to be handed to you. You need to put the work in to see the result you want. And the way that you treat people has a huge impact on the world around you, how your life goes.
Yes. I will agree with your core values are a lot of my core values, because the way we were brought up, it's what our parents taught us. I just wish that I don't know where I want to go with this. I wish I was a stronger person. I wish I would have stuck up for myself in the past.
Do you wish, I guess, do you find yourself doing that now? Meaning, do you find yourself in situations where whatever's going on, you don't agree with it, or someone's saying something to you and it's hurtful, but you just can't find your words or your voice to express?
Absolutely.
And stand, like you said, stand up for yourself.
Right. It's having self-worth and value. And I think I do, but not enough. Yeah. Because I would stick up for my beliefs a lot more if I did. It's a daily struggle.
Oh, absolutely.
Which we all have daily struggles.
Well, do you feel, leading into our next point, do you feel that has anything to do with how we react, with or without our emotions?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
How would you say you handle situations?
I don't.
Okay. That's huge.
I don't. Yeah. And it's not healthy, because I internalize a lot. And I try not to be a reactor, because in the past, I was an emotional reactor. Mm-hmm. But I also try to think about what the person said, why they said it. I try to put myself in their shoes.
You're analyzing everything.
I'm analyzing everything. And it takes me a while to come up with a retort.
Yeah, I know. Have you ever seen that meme where they're in the shower and they're finishing the argument in the shower, and you finally think of that good comeback?
Yes,
yeah.
That's me.
Yes, Andy.
5 days later, I'll be like, and I walk into a room, and I blurt out something, and everybody's turning, and
that's funny.
It's so it's terrible. It's terrible.
I think that comes from how we grew up, our childhood. For me, I would say, past trauma or not having, high enough of a self-esteem or, like you said, self-worth to speak up for yourself.
Well, I think too, going back to what we said about not thinking we have anything interesting to say, because every time I would try to talk to somebody, I would get interrupted. Somebody would interject in my story. I would be called names if I didn't remember something correctly. Throughout my life, this is how people interacted with me.
And it shut you down.
Shut me down. And these were people that I should have been my support group.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, hey, I think you're telling it, I think you're skewing the events a little bit, instead of helping me, it's terrible.
I want to go on a little side tangent of what you just said. I don't understand, because like I said earlier, I will listen to people for years. I will let you talk to me. I won't interrupt you for a second, because I've had similar things happen to me where people will try to talk over me or interrupt what I'm saying. And it is the most frustrating, annoying, and disrespectful thing to do to someone who's trying to share a thought or a feeling. That makes you not a good listener. That means you're listening to respond. Am I saying that right?
Listening to respond.
Instead of, listening to the person to find a resolution or actually have a full conversation with them.
And I will tell you this, I used to be that person, because I got to a point where anyone who would listen to me, because I was never listened to, I would just blurt and try to. And I have friends who would just sit back and listen. And I thought, oh, they're not interjecting in the conversation. And that's not the case. They were just actively listening. And that's a huge point. It's a huge point. And I became very self-aware that I did that.
Yeah.
And pulled back. And it's not about getting the last word in. It's about actually listening.
Absolutely.
And participating. That's participating. Listening in a conversation is participating in a
Absolutely. I have, thinking back on some of my friends, I have a friend who, she's very similar to me. She'll listen. She will engage in the conversation. She sincerely, genuinely cares. You feel this girl's kindness a mile away.
That's the best.
And I have another friend who is incredibly selfless and kind and will do anything for you. But she will talk to hear her own voice more so than anything. I mean, can't handle the silence in a room. She is getting so much better, and she's aware of this. This is why I'm comfortable saying it. And I love her to death. But, she'll just go on and on and on and on and won't listen to you and will interrupt you. And she's realizing that that's not how it works. And she apologizes, and she's really, really working on it. And I appreciate that. And then, more recently, I'm not friends with this person anymore. But this particular person in my life had a lot of problems going on, had a lot of stories, true or not, that they felt, like you just said, if one person would listen to them, they'd go on for days. And guess what? Anna is the girl for that. I find it interesting. I do enjoy listening to people, but this person took advantage of it. They took advantage of my ear and my heart.
Sure.
And just went on and on and on. And I'm empathetic. I'm an empath. So I will try to feel what you're feeling. And
so what happened to the relationship? Why are you no longer friends?
So quite a few things. This person was not an honest person. I don't think that this person was a genuine genuinely kind person. They knew how to make it look like that. And they took advantage of me. They got what they needed and found someone else to start taking from. And it's funny because looking back on that, I guess you could call it like a friendship, relationship, whatever. It didn't serve me one bit. Yet I gave so much, and I thought I was helping, and I thought I was being the good friend, the good person, because I will give people the benefit of the doubt, and I try to see the good and positive in everything. But I continued to let this person run me down, and I'm so happy to say that they're not in my life anymore. I had started distancing myself months before we even stopped talking. And I knew that this person wasn't a good person. And like they say, people come in your life for a few reasons. They're a blessing or a lesson, right? So they were a lesson.
Well, and you found your value.
I did. Nice job, girl. And that goes into how we treat ourselves.
Right. Oh, our last point. Oh my gosh. You have to find your worth.
Yes.
And you have to take a step back.
And I think as females, that could be one of the most difficult things to find in life and to hold on to in life. You know, our first examples for most of us would be our mothers.
Yes.
You know, my mom, my mom was my example, and I love my mom so much, and I wish she loved herself more, and I wish she treated herself better, and I wish she had that self-worth and value and self-love for herself, because what I had witnessed growing up was the opposite. She would take from her cup and she would fill everyone else's.
Yes.
And leave herself with an empty cup. And, you know, she's a very well-dressed woman. Jewelry, makeup, hair, shoes, outfit, everything. I'm not necessarily that way. I'm getting better. But also she would nitpick at herself, and she would say such negative things about herself. And growing up, I had my own insecurities, and that's what I saw. And I didn't see someone standing in a mirror and looking at themselves proud and happy and loving each roll and wrinkle, you know. I didn't see that. And growing up, like even now, I'm so much better, and I find the things I love, and I fix what I don't if I can, and there's nothing wrong with that. And with past relationships and how we allow people to treat us, I'm learning my self-worth and what I deserve. And, you know, technically right now I'm single by choice. I know that I need to know who I am, what I want, and how to love myself before I can ever do that with someone else or have someone give that to me.
It's brilliant. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's very, very hard. And I haven't been perfect the whole time, but I'm learning how to talk to myself. I'm learning how to look in the mirror and, you know, say kind things instead of find what I really don't like. And I learned that I need to take care of myself, and I need to look forward to the future of what I do want and work towards that.
Yes.
Because I value myself.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
As you should. My mom, she taught me how to take care of your man and your family. I mean, my mom put everyone else first. And that's exactly what I do. And that's what I did when I was raising my kids. My ex-husband, right? He was the man of the house. It's total old school. He's the man of your house. My mom used to say to us, your father works very hard, And everything that my mom bought us, we had to show my dad and thank him for it because he works hard. And I did the same with my kids. I would say, your father works very hard to provide for us. You make sure you thank him. Because, and what's interesting is I was putting value on someone else where I was working just as hard. Not that I needed to get that praise.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I want to ask, do you feel like that took some of your independence?
Oh, for sure. I loved being a mom, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I was a stay-at-home mom for 17 years. And I don't think I would have the relationship with my boys that I do today, right? If I didn't, because you build this relationship and this closeness. And we lived in a 900 square foot house. We had nowhere to hide. So there was a lot of family time, and that's where I found my value, being a mom. I learned that from my mom.
And as they got older, you started to find that Andy needed to reflect on herself, right?
Well, that's scary.
Very.
Because you lose yourself. And I'm still trying to find my purpose, because nobody teaches you that when your kids leave, or this is my case anyway, right? Your kids leave. That was my purpose.
Yeah.
That was my purpose. Raising my family was my purpose. And after I got divorced, right, your purpose kind of changes.
Absolutely.
And it's difficult to become.
Your hopes, your dreams change. Mm-hmm. Life evolves.
It does. And that's not bad.
Right.
But the way that I think how I treated myself then, that's why I got, my fitness journey became that much more.
That was your new purpose for you.
Purpose.
Something to focus on.
It's a focus.
Absolutely.
Right? That's key. It was a focus.
I love that. And I think what we just talked about leads us into what we're going to talk about for next week. Mm-hmm. And that is the truth behind women supporting other women. And we can talk about, self-worth, value, motherhood, and judgment.
It's yeah. Because that's a big word.
And what I like about that, we come from two different generations, mm-hmm. and what that all looks like today.
It's interesting. That's going to be a good topic.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited. So guys, below we'll leave an area. We would love to read your comments if you want to respond to the points that we talked about today. Relate or comment on anything that we had to say. We would love to read and hear from you.
Give us some love and support.
Absolutely.
By liking our podcast and
sharing it if you want.
Any constructive criticism is welcome.
Oh yeah, we know it's not perfect to start, but we will get better, and that's just how everything starts in life.
Yeah. We appreciate your support and you listening.
Absolutely. So with that being said, we're going to sign off. Happy Hump Day.
Have a great week, and we'll talk to you
later.
Ciao.
Peace out.